Monday Night Raw took place in Chicago, Illinois last night, and this was the fourth consecutive show in Chicago in the Allstate Arena, formerly the Rosemont Horizon. One of WWE's most legendary venues is the Allstate, or again, the Rosemont. I think probably the most second famous arena they've been in, only behind Madison Square Garden, because they've done a lot of shows in Chicago. They don't use the new one, the new arena, the one where the hockey team plays, but I guess there's something more nostalgic about the old arena. I think there's also, they get a larger cut of the money in Rosemont than they do in the Allstate, because the Allstate's in the city of Chicago and the taxes are different and stuff. But anyway, you have the Raw roster all around the ring, all of them. And you have Seth Rollins. Seth is mad because Raw got their asses kicked at Survivor Series. NXT won 4 matches, SmackDown got 2, and Raw only got 1 match. And the only match they won was on the pre-show, and that was just the tag match on the pre-show, so they didn't win anything on the main card. And Seth's mad. And this reminded me, I was getting annoyed with this reminded me of Triple H when he did that whole thing when he stood in the ring and the whole roster walked down on him in 2011 or whatever. That storyline sucked. I mean, the whole roster looked like a bunch of pussies and stuff. Here, Seth is calling people out. He's angry about what happened, and he says they went from being the A show to the C show, but that's not the fault of the match at Survivor Series. That is the fault of the fucking Raiders on Raw, and the fact that the show's 3 hours and it's too long to watch. Anyway, what he does, first he calls out Randy Orton. He says, you don't stand... he was the weak link on the main roster, and then Randy eventually just walks out, and he tells him to get out later. Then he goes after Charlotte Flair. He says to Charlotte, you were supposed to be the leader, and you were even the last Raw member standing. You call yourself a Flair. Charlotte gets angry, and she walks out. She didn't sell it well. Then he calls out AOP, Akam and Razor. They walk away, and then eventually everyone just leaves. Especially after Seth calls out Ray. That's when just the whole roster pretty much walks out after Ray leaves. And then Kevin Owens gets in the apron. Seth starts cutting a promo on KO, calls him lazy and pathetic and stuff like that. KO gets mad, gives Rollins a stunner and leaves. So stunner by KO to Rollins. We are back, and they show Seth Rollins, and he's interviewed by Charlie Caruso about what just happened. Seth says he was trying to do the right thing and get the brand back on track. But then KO came out and stunned him, and he'll have a match with KO, so that's your main event. Rollins and Owens. Pretty good match then in Chicago with. Hey, it's been a good week. I thought SmackDown was pretty decent. NXT was fucking amazing. Survivor Series was pretty good, and hopefully they end good with Raw. Depends on what you think of this show. It's easily the weakest, though. So Lashley destroys Titus O'Neil, and then Rusev comes out. This sets it up. Rusev gets a pop. He beats the shit out of Lashley. He destroys him, and we have police, because the whole thing with Rusev and Lana is a restraining order of 90 feet or whatever it's called. Rusev says something to Lana, and the police come out. Rusev, he breaks free of the fake police, which just looked awful. And then he throws Lashley off the stage, and he kicks a scaffold into Lashley, which is nuts. So Rusev destroys Bobby Lashley. That was really good. And then they say Rusev's been arrested for violating the restraining order. What they should do is have a match. This is a Russo match, but have a match with Lashley and Rusev, and it's a pole match. And you have Lana on a pole. I think they did something like Judy Bagwell on a pole in WCW. That was horrible. But have Lana on a pole. Whoever wins gets Lana. Something like that. You had Akam and Razor come out, and they have their old theme back. They're not wearing without their shirts now. They're just wearing with their tights and shirtless. That's their whole new gimmick now. It's the same thing. They kill Hawkins and Ryder. They need their old manager. They really miss Paul Ellering. They need him. I know Paul Ellering's daughter's with NXT. They could get her. She'd be good. She actually could work with them, but they need the manager in the worst way, because they're not going to go anywhere without that. Next, you had Andrade Almas with the lovely Zelina Vega going up against Akira Tozawa. Tozawa and him, it's a quick matchup. Andrade gets the win. Not much of a match. And speaking of his wife, on-screen manager, Zelina Vega, her real husband, Aleister Black, was backstage, and he tells Buddy Murphy that there are repercussions for your actions. You knocked on my door 1 week ago, and you have a match, and it's not going to be tonight, but they're going to have a fight eventually. You had Matt Hardy come out, who a return got a decent pop. He's just 1999 Matt Hardy now. It's just the whole delete thing is over. I think they really missed their peak with that. They did something with Bray Wyatt, but that whole thing with Matt Hardy, it's over now. He's just an old guy. He's just putting people over. He faces Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, I think, is really talented. He beats Matt Hardy. And speaking of Buddy Murphy, I think his ex, Alexa Bliss, was in Chicago, but she was not on the show. But I hear she was there just because she has a friend. I don't know. I think you might see Alexa probably back on SmackDown and on Friday. I expect us here, actually. So after Buddy Murphy wins, Aleister Black comes out, and they square off, and Aleister Black beats down Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy runs away, and that sets a big matchup. I think those two can have a fantastic match. They'll probably have a match on us, but don't do that match on TLC. That's not the kind of show where we have a great wrestling match. It's just a show for chairs, ladders, and tables, stuff like that. But I think if they let those two have a long match on, they can tear the house down. They show Charlie Caruso, and she is interviewing Charlotte Flair about her issues with Asuka. She is angry at Asuka for what happened last night. What happens during the match is Asuka and Charlotte have a fight. Charlotte beats up Asuka first. She throws her around, and Asuka hits Charlotte. She sprays Charlotte with the mist, actually, and she walks out, and then Charlotte gets pinned by Lacey Evans. So that sets up the match tonight. They show what happened with Seth Rollins in the locker room walking out on him. This was strange. AJ Styles comes out. This is a whole bunch of shit happened. U.S. title match. AJ Styles, Humberto Carrillo. This has been built up for a week. Humberto comes out and he's murdered by Gallows and Anderson. They kill him and they hit the magic killer on the steps. Ricochet comes out to check on him, and then AJ is cutting a promo on Humberto. Humberto needs to turn heel. He's something about his face. He's like just as arrogant. His dimples, man. He needs to be a heel. I don't know. I think like he has there's something about him that I think would work better as a heel than a babyface. Ricochet comes out, and then AJ says he signed a contract from Humberto alone, and that's it. And Randy Orton comes out, and he challenges AJ, and AJ reminds him that he beat Orton at WrestleMania this year. I actually forgot about that match. It existed. It was that whole bright light thing, and Orton was really pissed off anyway. Then you have Drew McIntyre comes out. He wants a match too. And then you have Rey Mysterio come out. And what it does, eventually AJ says, if you want a Fatal 4-Way match, you can beat each other up and he will pick the bone. So we have a Fatal 4-Way match, number one contenders for the U.S. title, followed by a U.S. title match. So Randy Orton against Ricochet, against Rey Mysterio, against Drew McIntyre. They have a good matchup here. This was a long match. They went through a commercial break for a while. It was very long. It was very entertaining. Rey Mysterio eventually gets the win. He gets a cradle on Ricochet, and he gets the win. So Rey Mysterio goes to face AJ Styles. And I always thought AJ and Rey would be a classic match if they had a matchup like that. And Rey in his prime and AJ in his prime would have been great. But we have it on Raw. AJ Styles defends his U.S. title against Rey Mysterio. And wow, here we go. This was a good matchup here. Really enjoyed it. They went back and forth. Looked like AJ was going to win for sure. Rey starts to make a comeback. Eventually, Anderson and Gallows attack Rey while the ref is out, and they set for the Magic Club. But Randy Orton comes out, and he sends Gallows and Anderson to ringside barrier, and he does the same thing to Anderson. He sends AJ AJ to Rey, and Rey sends AJ to the ropes. So Orton helps out Rey big time. I guess this is a babyface turn for Randy Orton. And Rey eventually gets the 619 he gets a 619 to AJ Styles, and then Randy Orton hits AJ with an RKO, and the referee starts to regain his consciousness. Rey Mysterio goes and hits the frog splash, tribute to Eddie. 1, 2, 3. Rey Mysterio pins AJ Styles, and he is your new United States champion. Huge surprise. Rey celebrates with his son. Dominic comes out. Rey is emotional. Dominic's emotional. It's an amazing moment. After everything Brock Lesnar put them through, they came close to beating him last night, even though we knew that he would never beat Brock. But it was a good culmination. Like, he never got his comeuppance for Brock, but he gets, him and Dominic celebrate a huge win. He wins the U.S. title. Dominic puts his father on his shoulders, which is just so strange. It's his son and his dad. I don't know. Anyway, Rey wins, and he's their new U.S. champion. And very good matchup here against AJ. Very good moment. They show Charlie Caruso. She congratulates Rey, and then KO comes out, cuts a promo on Seth Rollins, a long promo, goes after him, and KO is definitely a face now. So there's some they've changed a lot in terms of faces and heels. Charlotte Flair against Asuka, and this was a weird match because these two have great chemistry. I mean, they've had two very high-profile matches at WrestleMania 34. They had a very good matchup, and that's where Charlotte ends Asuka's undefeated streak, so she owns Asuka. And then the next match, a year later, basically, this past year, actually, in February, Charlotte and Asuka have a rematch, and Asuka wants her revenge, and that's when Asuka goes to SmackDown title, and Charlotte beats Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title, went on to the triple threat match with Becky and Ronda. So, Charlotte, again, she's ended Asuka's undefeated streak, and she took the SmackDown Women's title from her, so Asuka's pretty much Charlotte's bitch, let's be honest. But here, things change. Asuka gets some revenge, but this is a very weak match. They went through a long commercial break, and this is a good show because you got a lot of good wrestling. Hey, if you're telling me we're going to get a long match with AJ Styles and Rey Mysterio, you're going to get a long match with Charlotte Flair and Asuka, you're going to get a main event with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, this is a fantastic show, and it was a good show because of the wrestling, but this was a strange matchup. So there was something a little bit off. I don't know. Something's off with Charlotte. She's been off for the last few months. I've noticed that. I've said that. I thought while she was the best women's wrestler in the company, not anymore. Something's a little bit off with Charlotte, really since Mania. I don't know what it is. Anyway, what you had was Charlotte sends Kairi Sane into the ring post, and she was interfering in the match continuously. Asuka sent back into the ring. Kairi Sane distracts referee, and then that's when Asuka hits she spits the mist into Charlotte's face, and then Asuka rolls up Charlotte. So Charlotte's been devastated by the mist, and she's covering her eyes. She can't kick out. 1, 2, 3. Asuka pins Charlotte, and she finally gets some revenge on Charlotte Flair. They show such a good big win for Asuka, and I think this is obviously setting up Asuka and Kairi Sane defending their women's titles against Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch at TLC. And that'll be similar because last year in TLC, the main event was Charlotte against Asuka against Becky in triple threat TLC match. This year will be the women. I think the women will main event again, this time a tag team match for the tag team titles. Asuka, Kairi Sane, Charlotte, Becky, TLC. So similar to last year's main event at Kairi Sane. They had Eric Rowan, and it talks to that cage. I don't even care what that is. Anyway, he kills Kyle Roberts quick. They show KO and Seth Rollins hitting walking split screen before their main event. AJ Styles is speechless about what happened tonight. He's interviewed. He eventually just says Randy Orton, and he walks away. They do the whole stuff. They recap Rusev, Lana, and Lashley, that whole soap opera bullshit. Charlie Caruso interviews Lana. She says she's really sad. This whole storyline sucks. I can't wait for it to be over, but this was it for last week. Hear of that before we get the main event. So, Rollins and Owens. Main event. Good match. Yeah, they have a good matchup here. Rollins is turning heel, and this whole match was building up to Rollins' heel turn. They set up a part where KO sets up a pop-up powerbomb. Rollins gets out. Owens eventually gets a stunner onto Rollins. However, Akam and Razor, the AOP, make their way to the ring, and they stare down Owens and Rollins. Owens slaps Akam, and they beat up Owens. After the match, they beat down Owens more, and they destroy him. And then Akam picks up Owens, and he hits him with a knee in the head. Akam and Razor turn their attention to Rollins, and Rollins tells them to come and do it. But they turn around and leave the ring. And then Rollins has officially turned heel. KO has been devastated. He's out. Rollins hits 2 blockouts to Kevin Owens, not once but twice, destroys KO. Seth Rollins yells, he's angry. Seth Rollins is officially heel, and to save his career, they turn this guy heel. And that was it for Raw. Good show, an eventful show, and that wraps up the weekend in Chicago for WWE.